Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Neil Ducoff, founder and CEO of Strategies, and I'm going to take you on a uh, wild and crazy ride through pricing services and then a whole bunch of other stuff that you need to know, as obviously we're all getting into that point where salons are starting to reopen. And I've got some real important stuff that I want to share with you. So I'm going to get this show started. I'm going to turn off my webcam and let's go. So we're going to talk about a new reality of where the industry is at right now. You know, a lot of you have been closed for a month or a couple of months, or hopefully not even longer. And what we've seen at Strategies is this extreme focus on, as you should, this extreme focus on sanitizing and what are the protocols. And everybody's been like when this whole thing first started, it was like, I need a checklist, I need a checklist. But now that salons and spas are getting ready to open, it's, you know, what are the state regulations and what's going on? You know, we just had an issue here in Connecticut where salons and barbershops were able to open up tomorrow, which is May 20th. And yesterday, the 18th, the governor decided that they can't open until June 1st. So we have owners that took people off of unemployment and put them on their paycheck protection funds, have to call clients and reschedule again. And it's just, it's craziness what's going on right now. And I think that's just, everybody's just kind of used to, you know, what do I need to adjust, like adapt and overcome really fast. But right now with the opening, yes, everybody needs to be focused on creating safety for employees and creating safety for the clients and the sanitizing and whatnot. Where people are not paying the proper amount of attention, and I'm saying specifically owners, it's what about your operating and the financial logistics? And it's one thing to say, okay, you know, I know we're going to have to, you know, we got this PPE stuff we got to buy. And, you know, what about, you know, we've seen owners putting up dividers, and we've seen everything from, you know, really nice looking plexiglass dividers to some pretty interesting shower curtains to clear plastic and all kinds of stuff. But getting ready to open and, you know, clearing out your reception area of, you know, cloth furniture and getting rid of the magazines. And we know people are putting footprints down on where clients can stand. And one salon we know is using little hearts where clients can stand. But all of that is really, really important stuff. But you still run a business, and you want to make sure that you're running at, hopefully at or over what it takes to create profit in your company from the minute the doors open. And I get that that may be hard from when the doors first open, but you've got to be paying attention to the operating and the financial logistics of what's going on in your business. So the issue is covering increased operating expenses. You know, you've got fixed costs, you may have fewer service hours to sell, and then plus you got the sanitizing time and costs. And when I say fewer service hours to sell, just so we're all talking the same language here, salons and spas sell revenue producing hours. And your inventory of revenue producing hours is based on payroll hours. How many service providers do you have available? How many hours are they available to generate revenue? That's your inventory of hours. So reopening, you know, everything that we're seeing from a number of our clients that have already opened and what we're hearing elsewhere in the industry is that you guys are going to be swamped for a couple of weeks. That's fine. That's amazing. But we're not sure what's going to happen once you get that work through that onslaught of clients that have been dying to come in to see you. But no matter what, we've got fixed costs. We may have fewer hours. You know, what happens when an employee says, and this has been a real point of contention, what happens when an employee says, well, I'm making more on unemployment, so I think I'm just going to hang out home. Frustrating as hell, and there is no reason why owners should be competing against unemployment, but nevertheless, that's what we have. And there's talk of the extra $600 a week going to be extended through the end of the year. And I won't be surprised if they do that. But you know, you may have employees that don't want to come back because they're very happy on unemployment. And you may have employees that don't want to come back that are just concerned for their health. Or they can't get babysitters or whatever the issue is. So you may have fewer service hours to sell unless you can get people to work more or overtime or whatnot. We're going to go through all that. So here's fact: service pricing, because that's our topic today, it has always been a challenge in this industry. You mentioned that we have this discussion group. It's called the Strategies Salon Spa Business Idea Exchange. And we've got, I don't know, I guess close to 16,000 members. And every time someone says, hey, I'm looking to raise my prices, how should I let my clients know? And it's like, oh my God, the questions are just, or the responses are going to pile up from post a sign, send an email, grandfather people back in. If they don't like the price, then they're okay now, but next time when they come in, or we're going to do it and stay, and it's like all this craziness where even if you do just raise your prices, we also know that when are your service providers, your stylists, estheticians, when are they going to put the proper price down on the ticket? So the clients are checking out and paying the new price, because service providers do not like getting involved in the pricing thing. So we always know it's a challenge. We know people are very, very sensitive. Stylists, owners, clients too, are very sensitive to when prices do increase. And then there's that whole argument about, the industry hasn't kept, pricing in the industry hasn't kept pace with inflation, and we should be charging more for our work. And there was a conversation on our idea exchange that an owner started saying, I had to bring a plumber in to work on some stuff while we were closed, and the plumber's fee was, I don't know, $80, $90, whatever it was. And oh my God, for the hour worth of work, it was more than what we would charge. So why aren't we charging what plumbers charge, or electricians, or whatever? I'm saying, yes, the industry, many in the industry need to charge more for their work, but don't say our prices haven't kept pace with inflation if you've been reluctant to raise your prices. So lots of stuff is going to happen there. So here's a reality check. Costs are going to increase during the reopening process. There's really no way to get around that unless you got your landlord to forgive some of the rent, or give you a break on the rent until you can get the doors open again. But if revenues do not quickly exceed all payroll and operating costs, it's going to get financially uglier. I'll just let that bake for a minute. So here, you probably need to raise your service prices. And when I'm talking about raising your service prices, I do not recommend, I'm giving you my recommendations. I've been in this industry for 50 years doing this work. Price increases don't need a lot of explanation, other than in order to continue providing you with the level of service you're accustomed to, we've had to increase our prices. What would you like done today? And you got to move on. Prices go up. What some owners are doing is saying, we've had to add a surcharge of $5 or $10 or $2 or whatever the surcharge is to cover the costs of the sanitizing and PPE and whatnot. If you put a surcharge in, then when what you added the surcharge for, when that goes away, it'll be a client expectation that the surcharge should also go away. You don't want that to happen. And I'm not saying take advantage of the situation. What I'm saying is there is both an opportunity and a necessity that you make the adjustments in your service pricing that you need to make to ensure financial stability in your company. That's the whole point here. And I would really stay away from surcharges or an upcharge because of added expense, because if it's an upcharge, people can expect the upcharge to go away. You had to raise your prices, it's the new thing, that's it, over. Okay, so fact, service pricing begins with knowing your cost per hour. Once you know your cost per hour, the cost to deliver 1 hour of service, you can add on a desired profit margin. Now, the rest of this whole webinar is going to be about how to figure all this out. Now, the point here is, if you think about or answer the question, how did you come up with your current service pricing? So if you're a salon, how much is a cut and style, and how'd you come up with that price? You know, how much is a foil color or a touch-up? If you're a spa, how much is the facial? So what we typically hear is, well, you know, we looked at what the competition is doing, and this is what we used to charge, and this is what the market will bear, and all this stuff. And you come up with, well, we're going to be charging, you know, $75, $80 or whatever it is for the service. The problem is, if you pick a number out of the thin air, you don't know if it's sufficient to cover your cost per hour. There are other factors that are going to play here, and you'll see it in a little bit, you know, like productivity rate. The lower your productivity rate, the fewer revenue producing hours are producing revenue to cover all of your fixed expenses, and then your cost of sales, or what would be more variable expense, you know, like service, payroll, and product cost. You have to know what your cost per hour is. If you know what it costs to buy a bottle of shampoo, and you know if you do a 50% margin, if you buy it for 10 and sell it for 20, that's a 50% margin. Or if you buy it for 10 and sell it for 20, that's 100% markup, 50% margin. You know what the bottle of shampoo costs. You gotta know what the hour cost. And then you can take that hour and break it down to 45 minutes, 30 minutes, 15-minute increments. You've got to know your cost per hour. Quiz, what do you have to know? We have to know our cost per hour. Great job, guys. All right, now we can go to the next slide. All right, so how do we figure out cost per hour? I'm going to take you through these steps. After we go through these steps, I'm going to show you a tool that we built for you that you'll be able to access and go through these calculations. But you need to understand the process before I show you the tool and how to get access to the tool. So step one, how many revenue producing hours does your salon spa have for sale? That means, and I'll keep this simple, we'll work with a salon. How many service provider stylists do you have with hours available for sale on the appointment book? So if you've got 10 stylists that work 40 hours a week, you've got 400 hours available for sale that week. But then you got to take out, you know, lunch and breaks if you're doing the breaks. But you got to break it down to, if you look at block time on your schedules, if you take out all the block time, then what is left over are hours available for sale. That's the number you need to get to based on the number of service provider employees you have. This is not capacity based on how many hours is your business open a week, and how many chairs or stations or treatment rooms do you have, times hours and whatnot. That's a capacity calculation. That's not going to work here to come up with your service pricing. It's got to be done based on what is your current payroll and people on payroll that have hours for sale. That's the number that we're looking for. Okay, step 2, what is your current average monthly productivity rate? Now, for all of you guys using Millennium or Meevo 2, you know that John Harms and team have gone overboard to make sure that you know revenue producing hours and you know what that productivity rate is. And you also know that you've got to go in and make your little adjustments to get that productivity rate dialed in right, to not include block time and lunchtime or any other time that you don't want included in the calculation. So revenue producing hours divided by hours sold equals your productivity rate. Productivity rate is critical. You'll get to see more of that shortly. Step 3, on average, how many hours are sold per month? So here you're going to multiply. I'm going to get my pointer laser color red. Okay, so let me get, there's my laser pointer. Okay, so you want to multiply your monthly revenue producing hours by your average projected productivity rate for a month. How many revenue producing hours do you have times your projected or historic productivity rate? And that's going to give you your hours sold per month. So we've got how many hours are you selling now? We got your productivity rate. All right. Now we've got to look at what are the costs. So using your profit and loss statements prior to COVID-19, which means you're going to have to go back to at least January of 2020. If you were open till the end of February and February didn't have any impact from the pandemic, then you can use February, January, December, November. What? Remember those days? Remember when we didn't have to deal with all this nonsense? I do. So using profit and loss statements, you want to calculate your total average monthly cost of sales and your total average general and administrative expenses. Cost of sales in a service business is service payroll, professional product cost, retail product cost, and we typically include credit card processing fees because that's a variable based on revenue. Under general and administrative, it's owner's salary, officer salary if you're full-time, leadership, front desk, guest services, rent, utilities, advertising, insurance, all the other stuff. That's your general and administrative. Okay, to arrive at your cost per hour, divide step 4, which is total expenses, by step 3, which is the average hours sold per month. And now you know the exact cost to deliver 1 hour of service in your company. It's like knowing that you spent $10 on a bottle of shampoo and then you're going to put a margin on it. So getting it down to the cost of 1 hour of service, that's what you need to do. And again, we'll show you more how this works right now. So I'm going to take you through, look what we built for you. I've got a lot of slides to go through here, and I don't need to spend a lot of time on these. So I'm going to move pretty quick. We built a special website, and I'll give you the link to the website in a minute. And we put 2 spreadsheets on that website. And this is completely free, and we're going to have this available until you guys don't need it anymore. So after we all get back to work and the pandemic is history, and maybe it'll be sometime in 2021, we'll turn this website off. But for now, you're going to have access to it, and it's free. But we built a website that has a 13-week cash flow recovery plan, which allows you to build a cash flow plan in 1-week increments. So, do we have sales this week? No. Why? Because we're closed. Do we have sales next week? No. Why? Because we're closed. Do we have sales the week after? Yes. Why? Because we opened and now we're selling time. So you'll be able to enter what you project for your revenues, and then in each week, you're able to put in what your expenses will be for that week. It gets it down to a step-by-step process where you can see each week. There's another spreadsheet, and it also allows you to put in cash reserve and cash infusion if you got a PPP loan or a EIDL loan. It allows you to put those in there so you can track cash flow. The other spreadsheet is a cost per hour spreadsheet, and it's pretty cool the way we built this. So here's how it works. This is the login page for that site. The site is recovery.strategiescoaching.com. All you have to enter in your browser is recovery.strategiescoaching.com, and that'll take you to the login page. And when you see the login page, you're going to see a little thing here. It says not registered, and you're going to click the registration link. Why? Because if you haven't been there yet, the only way you're going to get in is if you're registered. So click the registration link. It'll give you a username, and your username is the first letter of your first name and your last name. One word, lowercase. And then you'll be able to pick a password. Please write your password down. And then it will bring you back to this login page where you will enter your username and password. And then you're going to get into the site. And when you get into the site, you're going to see this. This is the home page. There is a video. This video is a whopping 12 minutes long. I tried to do it shorter, but it came out 12 minutes. We did have one that was 37 minutes and nobody wanted to watch it. So we got it down to 12 minutes, and then there's a little cheat sheet down here. You need to watch the video if you're going to use the 13-week cash flow spreadsheet. And then down below this, there's another video on cost per hour, and you need to watch that so you understand how to use it. And then over here, we have all kinds of little links to resources in our website, coaching, coronavirus resource links, all kinds of stuff. All right, so you're on the home page. You're going to promise, raise your right hand. You want to promise that you're going to watch the videos, because every time we get a question saying, well, I couldn't do this and I couldn't do that, well, it's because you didn't watch the video and you didn't follow the instructions. And it's not hard. Once you get into the flow of this, it's pretty easy. So you're going to click on spreadsheets, and it'll bring you to this page. The first thing you're going to see, there's two spreadsheets. There's the recovery cash flow plan, and in this example, there is already a plan being worked on here. And then there is a cost per hour sheet. There is no sheet over here, and these are listed under my sheets. There is no sheet because we didn't create our own sheet from one of the templates. So we're going to go to the templates. Click on templates, then you'll click on cost per hour. It'll bring up the cost per hour comparison template. When you see that, you will click there. You're going to see that right there. Then you're going to click on copy sheet, and you're going to give it a name for you. and then you're going to click copy sheet. Here's your name. Then you're going to click copy sheet. And then it'll now show up in my sheets. If we went to the recovery cash flow plan, you would see the one sheet there for the cash flow. Right now you're seeing the cost per hour. And you can make as many spreadsheets as you want. Knock yourself out, do different scenarios. All right, here's your cost per hour. Then you're going to go to view sheet. And view sheet is exactly what it means. You can go in and you can look at the sheet. And if we had already entered data here, then you would see all the data that was entered. And there is an export tool that allows you to export an image of the spreadsheet so you can print it out and you print it in Excel. The problem with spreadsheets don't like to conform to 8.5 by 11. So we set this up so you can export to an Excel image of the spreadsheet, and then you can print from Excel. It does not export a working Excel file. It's colors, text, it looks just like you see here, but it is not a working Excel. You will come back into the site to work on it. So once you come in and view the sheet, then you're going to click edit sheet, and now you'll be able to go in and enter data in only the green cells. If you try and click on any other cell but these green cells, here's 2, here's a bunch, here's 1, here's 1, here's 1, and then we've got some stuff over here, and we'll show you how that works in a minute. You can, and it's the reason that we do this on our web portal is we don't have to fix Excel spreadsheets, okay? So let's start working on this. So we're looking at hours available for sale. And then we're going to do our projected productivity rate. Now remember, you're going to enter hours available for sale, which is based on the number of service providers you have on payroll with time on the appointment book that can be sold. So we're going to enter some numbers here. So we're going to put 1,000 hours for the month, and that you're working at a productivity rate, let's, for example's sake, you're at 75%. If prior to the shutdown, if you were running at 70, 65, 60, 55%, you need to talk to us because you can't have that many hours left unsold and people standing around with nothing to do or sending them home. It's going to wreck your culture. So anything below 70, we have a red flag. 75 isn't bad. We like to see between 75 and 85, fluctuating in there. Okay, so here we have our 1,000 hours, 75% productivity rate. Then we're going to look at our service payroll per month. On average, what is your service payroll? If the hands do the work, it's service payroll. If you have assistants that work with your stylist or they're assisting with the shampoos and color removal, that is service payroll. If they work the phones or only communicate with guests, that's guest services admin. Then we're going to enter average professional use supplies and then merchant credit card fees. No retail costs exist in the cost per service hour calculation. Repeat, you do not want to include any any retail product costs in the service cost per hour calculation because retail's another business. We're trying to do our service here. So you won't see retail in here. Put in on average what your credit card merchant fees are. Then we're going to put in, right down here, we've got what are your total average general and administrative expenses. In this example, it's 30,000. And it says right down here, the cost for 1 hour of service in this example is $81.07. That's like knowing what you paid for a bottle of shampoo before you mark it up. So there's our cost for 1 hour of service in our example. Then you put in your desired profit margin. We suggest you do at least 15%, maybe 20. The higher you go, you're creating more margin for error. Don't put in 5%. That's no margin for error. And if you've been running, if your salon or spa has been running at a 2, 3, 4, 5% net profit, you need to talk to us, because that's skinning your teeth. That's asking for trouble if there's a ripple and your business can't handle it. So we suggest you start with 15%. Just so you know, on these spreadsheets, when you put in a percent, you have to type 15 and then the percent mark. If you don't hit the percent mark, that's going to say something like 1,500. Same thing up here with productivity rate, 75 and then the percent mark. That's the only thing you need to remember. So if the percent looks weird, just go back and type the percent of the number with the percent mark. So now let's add in what we want for retail. And let's just say we're shooting for 20% retail to total sales. So these would be the projected monthly sales. But right now, we know that 1 hour in this company should sell for $95.37 on average. So you have to take that 95 and go, okay, what services do we take an hour for? Okay, these services. Are you charging at least $95? Now, some are a little more. Okay, that's great, but we have some that are less. I'll show you when we wrap up. If it's a 45-minute service, then it's 75%, I'm sorry, 75% of the 95.37. If it's a half-hour service, it's 50% of the 95. If it's a 15-minute segment, it's 25%. So you know you can break this down to, well, if it's going to take me an additional half an hour or 15 minutes to do this service, this is how much more I need to charge for it. It makes it really, really simple. Okay, next. So now we're looking at, here's our current model here, but we need to add in, what about PPE, personal protective equipment? What's it going to cost you for that? What about additional sanitation supplies for the month? And man, if you do your own towels, what's it going to take to do all the towels that you're going to have to do? Because you're going to have a lot more towels to do, unless you're requiring clients to come to the salon with shampooed hair and you're only using your sinks and shampoo and towels for, hair color services. But you got to add in what these new costs are going to be. So now we're looking at $82.40 is the cost for 1 hour of service. And if we put the 15% margin on, we were $95 and change prior, but now with these new expenses, we're almost $2 more per hour that we need to charge. And then here's the comparison back to back. All right, so everything is the same here. We added in the additional costs, and you can see the cost per hour is going up, and with retail and whatnot, but our price, the price that we should be selling an hour for in this case is almost $2, $1.50 more than prior to the pandemic. All right, now there's another reality that we're going to need to look at here. What if all your people don't come back? What if I want to stay on unemployment? Or I'm afraid and I think I want to go find another industry to work in. Or what if your employees, just some decided to go do something else or find another opportunity. So here, now we're going to say, what happens if our hours are reduced? And here we're saying by 250 hours a month, right? That's like 1.25, 1.5 full-time employees not returning in this particular example. So one of the things we look at is if we have reduced hours, we're going to have a higher productivity rate. Fewer hours, we still have the same volume of business. People are going to be busier, so great. Productivity rate's going to be, we're just using an example, 85%. But you can see we now need to charge with our same 15% profit margin, we now need to charge basically $100 for an hour of service, where before it was 95, 96, okay? So you can start seeing what the differences are and what you need to do. And this is the stuff that owners, you need to be aware of the dynamics on how changes in hours for sale, changes in productivity rate has a great impact on what your cost per hour is. Now, the really cool thing is when you lock into cost per hour, the higher the productivity rate goes above the calculation that we're working on, the higher your profit margin goes. So if you can get to 90% productivity, your profit margin, because you're selling more with less time, it's lowering your cost per hour, increasing your margin. Doesn't mean you pass the savings on, it just means you're running more efficiently. Okay, now let's go to this next one. Okay, so there's a 750. I got ahead of myself here with the explanation. We got everything here. We got, our new cost per hour, our new price per hour. Now, let's look at this. We added this little tool to say, what if we need to add more time for the sanitizing and turning that station and getting it prepared for the next client? And again, you want the clients to see the sanitizing. You want the clients to get that semblance that they are being well taken care of. So let's try a couple of different scenarios, and I think this is where it's going to make sense. Oh, there is one little thing down here. Select your business model. If you're team-based pay or hourly, you're fine. If you pay commission, then you need to, on the little drop-down menu, pick commission, and it makes a difference in how the costs are going to be generated. Here we just changed it to commission, and you see that here, because fewer hours, higher productivity, that 1 hour of service needs to sell for $105 versus the 95 that we were looking at before. Okay, if I put it back to team-based pay, this would go back down to, I think it was like 99. It was basically $100. And again, you have to remember team-based pay because it's hourly. If the higher your productivity rate goes, the more efficiently you're using your payroll dollars, the lower your cost per hour. On commission, when that productivity rate keeps going up, your payroll keeps going up and your cost per hour keeps going up. Read between the lines. That's just the way the math works in real time. So we're looking at $105 that it needs to sell for. So let's put in 15 minutes for additional time to sanitize. So if we add 15 minutes between services, hours sold projected productivity rate, we were looking at 638. That's 638 over here at 85% productivity. But now we're going to use an additional 159 hours for the month, So we're really using 797 hours up here, 797 hours, and the productivity rate is going to climb to 106%. And this little window is going to say, hey, you can't do that. You need to try lowering your projected productivity rate in cell H4, and that's over here. All right, let's go to another example. Okay, what if we only did 5 minutes? So projected hours, 638. Additional hours, 51. Now we're going to be at 92% productivity, because if we're at 85 for service time, adding 5 minutes more per service for sanitizing is going to have that 85% productivity rate actually jump up to 92. And this is sustainable. You know, you can lower that productivity rate a little bit, but 92% is really pushing it. And I will tell you that from what we're hearing from some of our clients who've already opened, some of them are finding that they really don't need the additional time for sanitizing. It doesn't take that long. So here we changed that the 85% productivity rate to 78%, and now we're saying this rate is definitely sustainable. That 92%, that's you're running pretty hot there, but 84% is doable. So again, the whole intent here, is to show how cost per hour and the increased costs for PPE, sanitizing, additional laundry costs for more towels or capes and whatnot, how all of this impacts. But the big lesson here is you gotta know your cost per hour, and you've got to work with a desired profit margin to make sure that you're pricing your services at a level that will create profit for your company. Now, I'll tell you one thing, if you have nail services in your salon, the price point of nail services usually makes the margins very thin, and there may be some services that you won't be able to make adjustments on pricing, but then you have other things like foil color and maybe single process color, waxing, where you'll be able to absorb the cost per hour there or make the adjustment, and it'll make up for services that you can't. But you gotta know what the cost per hour is for your company, and you gotta work on that desired profit margin. So here, when we lowered it to 78%, we're looking at $108 per hour. Okay, so how does all this work as far as the pricing goes? So here's a completed form. You'll be able to work on these, make as many of these as you want. If you want to break it down by department, you can certainly break it down by department. You may need some coaching in how to do that, but you can break it down by department. So here, if we determine that 1 hour of service needs to sell for $100, an extra 15 minutes to that would be an extra $25 added to the price. Every additional 15 minutes would be an additional $25. So based on this, a 30-minute service would sell for $50, a 45-minute service, a haircut, would sell for $75, a 90-minute service would be $150. A 90-minute service, if you do an hour, skip a half hour, and there's another half hour for finishing and whatnot, as long as you're selling that 30-minute gap for another service, you're in good shape. But if you're taking a full 2 hours to do a 90-minute service, you're losing money. It's not going to work. One other thing that's really important here, and I know this is a reality, but how many people work for you that struggle to work within time standards? Let's use a 45-minute haircut. So if you have stylists that take an hour to do a 45-minute haircut, the price they should be charging is $100, not $75. If it takes them an hour to do a 45-minute service, should have sold for $100. And this is just, I hope you enjoy the humor. We could all use a little humor right now. If you had a conversation with your employees that struggle to work within time standards and say, I will never bother you again about how long it takes you to do a service, as long as you add an additional $25 or whatever the 15-minute increment would be for each additional 15 minutes you work on a client. Okay, so that $75 haircut that you should have charged $100 for, you're going to need to charge $100. And then typically you're going to have a stylist say, so what do I do when the client says, how come it was more this time? Then you can say, you need to be honest, tell the clients because you're slow. Everybody laugh, it's funny, but it's real. And there are a lot of, and what I said in the beginning about the challenge price increases have in salons where it can take forever to get a price increase through. There are service providers that would rather learn how to work faster just to avoid telling the client it's going to cost more. And I'm not saying you should do that. What you're going to realize, though, is that all of your newbies that you charge less for, haircuts are less, or whatever service they provide, you're charging less and they take longer, you're not making money, and you're putting a lot of extra pressure on your busier, higher priced, more efficient service providers to offset the losses. I hope you got all that. I'm going to scoot over here. Do we have any questions that are coming up in the either in the chat, or I'm going to see if I can show this chat over here. And I can't do it when I'm using the pointer. Okay, so, all right. Do we have anybody in the chat, and do we have questions? So let's see.
Hey, Neil.
Yep.
We did have a question that came in from Stephanie, and her
Yep.
question was, what if you are a newer business that only has been open for 1 year that doesn't have a high productivity rate? Do you suggest lowering the price to get more clients?
No. I mean, yeah, you have to understand, you still need to do your cost per hour. And if your productivity rate is low, there's a good chance that you have more hours than you can really sell. So the only way to reduce hours, there's a couple ways to reduce hours. Get busier and use the hours. Cut hours, I hate to say that, but if you have more hours scheduled than you can afford, then you may have to trim hours. And if your productivity rate is running 60% or 55, or, I mean, if it's really low, then maybe you need to let somebody go. These are, because you hired too much to begin with. You can still go back, and even if you're only open less than a year, you still know what your expenses are. You still know how many hours are available for sale, and you still know what your productivity rate is. So go to the recovery.strategiescoaching.com site and play with some of these spreadsheets and see what it's telling you, because it may, just getting your productivity rate up by having fewer people and keeping fewer people busier can give you some financial relief. But this whole thing with, let me charge less to get more people in. I mean, every time I meet an owner that's doing Groupon or anything Groupon like, you got to get out of that stuff. Groupon makes money. It's hard to convert a Groupon client to a retained client. I would not suggest you lower prices. I would do everything in your power to add value to the service, to absolutely blow that client away with your professionalism, your attention to detail, your consultations, your recommendations, and how you do your work. And that everybody talks about the customer service experience. You got to deliver on that to charge the necessary pricing to support your company. So yeah, do not lower your prices. And I'm just saying that I don't know your business, but my initial reaction is don't, and do the cost per hour calculation. And if your productivity rate is a lot lower than 70%, you've got more hours than you can afford to sell, and you got to trim some hours. And I wish there was an easier way to say that, but that's the most responsible answer I can give you. Do we have another question?
We do. What do you want to do when your cost per hour isn't in line with the rest of your salon in your area? How do you price below cost per hour and stay competitive?
Okay, so situations that we see are you fell in love with a location, you signed the lease for this location, the rent is huge, CAM charges, and the challenge that you have is to be able to grow into that space to get your rent percent down. That was a choice you made going in. And again, I would go back to, if you know what those costs are and your cost per hour is saying you need to charge more for each hour you sell, or 45 minutes or 30, then you've got to look very hard at what is your service offering. Are there certain services that you can get that higher price for? But you're going to have to make some tough decisions, including what other costs are there in your what about product costs? Are you working on a budget for your professional use supplies? Or do you have multiple color lines, triple color lines? Where are you spending money and have cash tied up in inventory that you don't need? Are you putting money into advertising that isn't getting a result for you? Are there any other expenses that you can trim? So there's that balancing of, it's not just what your cost per hour is, but if it comes out that it's too high for you, that if it's coming out where you would be the highest price salon in your marketplace, then you got to go back and say, what costs do I need to get rid of to lower my cost per hour to make it work for me and still allow some sort of a profit margin in there, because that's why you're in business. I hope that answers it. And just, I'm going to show the next couple slides. Some of these questions you really need to talk to a coach, and I'll give you the website and where you can schedule a free coaching call. But these are big questions that are being asked, like just these first two. And you may need some help to figure this thing out and get to a better place faster. We got another question.
We do. We actually have one more. This
Cool.
is from Rebecca. How do you recommend adding value when you are limited on time and regulations?
how do you recommend we value when you're limited on time and regulations? Um, are these, can she just give me a hint on what are the regulations? What's creating that?
Sure. Let's see if she said, like, if we can't blow dry.
Oh, all right. Okay, thanks. That helps. So, I mean, if you can't blow dry, you can't charge the client for the full service. So, and you could also take more clients because you don't have to blow dry. So there, again, there's other factors that you can consider here. Um, and if you're just charging for, the haircut only, I started in this business as a hairstylist. And and that was back in, anyone remember 1970s, 72, 73? The 70s are a little spotty for me, but, you know, back then, I remember back, when I was a stylist, I only did hair for 7 years. I love the business side of the industry. That's where I spent my career. But that time as a stylist, it taught me a lot of how I can better coach people. Um, you know, if it's a cut and style, I would want the cut to be not much less than what a full cut and style would be. So if a client does say, I'm going to blow my own hair dry, forget what's happening with the pandemic now. Hey, you're still, because most of your time is still going to be taken in doing the haircut. The blow dry is 15 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that, depending on the hair, of course. But if you can do more haircuts per hour, if you're used to doing, uh, 45-minute cut and styles, and you should be able to do a haircut every 30 minutes. But you also have to consider, what about consultations with the clients that are coming in? And what about that opportunity to upsell? A lot of clients are coming in with regrowth. And what clients did discover through the stay-at-home orders is that regrowth doesn't kill you. It just gives you a new outlook on life. But you should be able to still maintain your revenue per hour plus margin that you need if you can't do the blow dries. But I would also, again, you may want to still take that 45 minutes and really talk to the client, really help them understand, really help them feel well taken care of, because you want them to come back at the proper maintenance cycle for that service, which brings us to another conversation, which is pre-book. Yeah, at the end of these services right now, with clients coming in for their first services, now that salons are reopening, or spas or med spas or nail or lash or whatever you guys are. We want to make sure that we pre-book for the proper interval when they leave, so they don't start spacing things out and they don't go, 90 or 120 days when they should have been back in 4 or 5, 6 weeks or 7 or something. So you want to really have that time to do the pre-book and also get your retail sales in. So if you still slow it down and don't lower your price that much, if you're just doing cuts and not blow dries, you should be fine. You gotta think it through. Don't just cut the prices and let your margins walk out the door. And pre-book, you gotta pre-book. Our customers are seeing 75 to 85% pre-book since reopening. A lot of them were up in that area prior to the pandemic, but a lot of our clients are seeing very high pre-book rates, and they're seeing crazy high tips and gratitude from the clients that they're finally reopened and they're able to get back in and get taken care of. Build value. It's important now. And I want to make one, I'm going to ask myself a question. So if we don't have one in there. I hear people asking like, hey, so are you guys double booking? And I have an issue with double booking. Shoot me, call me crazy, but this whole exercise of double booking and squeezing clients in, even if you're getting the pricing that you feel you should be getting, it compromises the customer service experience. And for right now, when clients they need to feel that appreciation because they sure appreciate you. Um, Stay away from the double booking. It's not going to help you through this. You're better off doing your cost per hour calculation with the margin and charging more if that's what you need to do, and spend the time with the client than getting them in and bam, I just got a haircut done. Next, bam, just got a haircut done. That's you have an opportunity to reopen and present yourself at a higher level of professionalism and at a higher level of customer service and a higher level of care and caring and appreciation for your clients. Thank you for asking that question, Neil. You're welcome. Do we have another question?
We
I'll
do,
keep
and
asking. Good, I'll
this
keep
is
asking myself. Come on.
and this is a two-parter. Can you give me the phone number for coaching, please? And also, do you offer coaching for commission-based salons?
Yeah, yes, a lot of our clients are team-based pay because that's what we're known for. We love to teach, coach, train commission companies. Your numbers will tell you, and your performance and critical numbers will tell you if you need to make a change in your compensation. We don't force anybody to do it, but you need to understand where you're at and what some of the limitations are on commission. But we don't have a problem coaching commission people. But we will guide you to the best solutions that we can see for you. I'll go to this next screen. It'll help with the other. This is the recovery.strategiescoaching.com. If you guys go to strategies.com, and if you click on memberships, click on coaching, read about what we do. You can read about team-based pay. If the team-based pay is crazy, don't even click on it. But you can go to our memberships and you could see we have 3 different level memberships. The least expensive starts at $6.95, and it includes, and these are screenshots, so I can't click on it, but it includes your coaching. It includes a command center, which is our coaching portal, where you saw a bit of the coaching portal in on the recovery.strategiescoaching.com, but there's resources, there's online learning, there's many more spreadsheets that we have clients work on and projects, but it also includes seminars where for now until the end of the year at least, everything we're doing is online. So there are certain seminars that are included with the memberships, and then we have a foundation membership, and then we go up to, we call it a comprehensive, and I believe that one goes up to $11.95 a month, but that also includes a 2-day on-site. So, but you can start with a basic membership for $6.95, and then we have other easier things, but that can all get figured out, and we can best guide you if we do a coaching call. So if you go to strategiescoaching.com, and this is the home page, you'll see this stuff. And if you just scroll down a little bit, you'll see free coaching call. Name, email. Yes, we want to harass you with our promotional stuff. We don't go crazy. Schedule your free coaching call. It'll bring up a link. You'll be able to pick your time and day. You'll get confirmation emails. We do them on Zoom. Everyone in the free world knows Zoom now. But you'll work for an hour with a coach. You can explain your situation. We love to be able to see profit and loss statements and balance sheets, and we'll ask you questions about where your business is, and then we'll answer questions that you have so we can make this free call worth your while, and then we'll give you some recommendations on how we can work together. We are doing for new clients coming on. We're doing, because we know you guys need some help, so we're doing first month is half price, and then you go to the regular rate, so it'll give you a chance to get started. But that's the easiest way to find out about our coaching is go to strategiescoaching.com and click on memberships and look at our other stuff on there. We've got tons of information. How'd I do? Did I answer both parts? I think I did. Any other questions here?
Nope, it looks like a lot of questions that are.
I was going to, God, did everybody leave?
No, a lot of the questions that are coming in are, is this recording going to be available? And yes, it will be. It will be on our Millennium community site. So that is something that will be available to everybody. But I want to tell you this much. Everybody keeps saying, thank you, Neil. Thank you, Neil. Some people are saying, met you back in 2005 at a Washington, D.C. spring. So everybody seems to be saying hi to you.
Yeah, everybody says, you know, I met you years ago. It's like, of course you did. I've been around a long time. Just so everyone knows, if you guys are still on, tomorrow we're doing our 9th weekly town hall meeting, and I'm going to talk about some really serious things that I'm concerned about. I wrote about them in my Monday morning wake up yesterday, where, you know, where everyone's so concerned about protocols and sanitizing. There's other stuff that you really need to pay attention to in your business model, and what changes do you need to make. We've been at this for over 26 years, and you know, we know our coaching works, we know our systems work. It'll make a commission salon stronger. It can help you build better cultures, but you know, this is the time to make change in your business. Employees are happy to come back. You're going to find out who your loyal ones are. You're going to find out who the not so loyal ones are. You're going to find out the ones who want to retire on unemployment, but that's going to run out eventually. So this is the time to really look hard at your business. And I know you're busy reopening, but you know, give that thing called your company some TLC. It's going to really need it during the recovery. It's going to be a long road. You know, I hope we come back and they're saying maybe by the end of the year we should be in pretty decent shape, but it's going to take a long time with the level of unemployment and just the missed revenue and people trying to figure out what life is like, you know, post-pandemic. We got a lot of work to do. And with that, I thank all my friends at Millennium, and any of you guys that are not on Meevo, what are you waiting for? We've seen it, strategies. I had all of our coaches last December when everything was right with the world. Last December, all of our coaches went through the Meevo 2 front desk training certification and went through the management certification for Meevo. We've always been a fan of Millennium. We used Millennium to run strategies for, 15 years, something like that. It served us very well. And, you know, we're big fans of John Harms, and all you guys are working hard. So wish you the best. And with that, take care, everyone.